This is the plaintiff, Jaspinder Singh. He says he's a long-haul truck driver who drove for the defendant, and the guy stiffing him on the job he did for him. He worked darn hard, driving for hours on the road, and deserves to be paid the $2,478.61 he's owed. This is the defendant, Gurpreet Singh. He says you're darn right he didn't pay the guy for his last trip because he didn't return the truck to California like he was supposed to. Oh, him? No way. He's accused of trucking up a relationship.
All parties, please raise your right hands.
Welcome back to the People's Court. Next case of the docket. The plaintiff says he worked his butt off during the pandemic driving a truck, and now the defendant won't pay him for his good work.
But the
defendant says the guy left his truck in California instead of returning it to Arizona where he got it, so he's not paying. It's the case of trucking up a relationship.
Thank you, Douglas.
You're welcome.
Okay, Mr. Singh, you are suing Mr. Singh, no relation, the owner of Terrific Logistics Incorporated, for your last paycheck, which you say that he did not pay you. Jaspinder Singh, tell me what happened.
Okay. So I drive for Mr. Singh last like 5 months, and my trip starts from Indiana, where was my terminal now.
Your trip starts from where?
From Indiana, where's my hometown at?
Indiana. Okay. And where is the defendant's business?
California.
And are you driving your own truck?
No, I'm driving his truck.
And where did you get his truck?
From California.
Okay.
And then I'm be driving all over the United States.
I got it. And then how does he pay you? Because you're an independent contractor.
Yes, independent contractor.
Okay, so you're paid by the job, right?
Yes.
And
yes.
that's how many trips did you do for him total before things went wrong between you guys?
I did a lot of trips for him.
Can you tell me the answer to my question, though? How many trips? 5 or 50?
More
than 50?
More than, yes.
All right, and did he always pay you the same way right after the trip as soon as you turned in your paperwork?
Yes.
Except for the last time?
Yes.
All right, now, I am speaking now to Gurpreet Singh. Tell me what went wrong with this independent contractor, and what was the reason that you didn't pay him the last time?
When I hired Jaspinder Singh, he said he has a certain amount of experience, which once I hired him, I realized he did not. By DOT law, we are supposed to track every hour, every mile. So you are supposed to clock in. You cannot work more than 11 hours, and you're supposed to clock out at 11 hours. There would have been times when I would notice that he showed on his logbook that he went to bed in one state, and then next time he started driving, he's 200 miles or 150 miles away from it. But I was hurting for drivers, so I figured I would train him, teach him how to do it. And at the time of hiring, I did mention to him that in trucking, a lot of people do illegal logbook, which is why we have these laws now, which are not everybody likes it. And I informed him that I do run legally. I don't want any falsification.
Do you have that device on his truck that shows electronically where he is? So how would he, what would he do? Turn it off so he could drive longer distances? And he would do that because he's not paid by the mile. He's paid by the job, and he wants to get home earlier? Or what?
He's paid by the mile. So every 70 hours, they would have to take a 34-hour mandatory break, which means they would have to stay there wherever they are for a day and a half.
Oh, and he doesn't want to do that. Right.
He doesn't want to do that.
I got
So I said, "Why? I have told you so many times, if you get caught, it's on my company. I will be responsible for it." And he said, "I'm a very safe driver." I said, "That has nothing to do with it.
Don't worry, I won't get caught."
So that day, I kind of told him, I said, please bring my truck back. Let's just finish the trip, this one, and I will buy you a ticket. You can go home and let's finish it. Bring my truck back to my yard, get paid, and we move our way.
So, Mr. Jaspinder Singh,
yes.
At some point, he's apparently unhappy with you, and he tells you that he doesn't want you. He doesn't want you to drive. He wants you to bring the truck back because he's unhappy with you. It's obvious it's not your truck. You know that at the end of whatever employment you have with him, you have to bring the truck back, right?
Yes.
So what happened? Why didn't you bring the truck back?
if it is electronic logbook, it's not be supposed to. I can be turn it off and run it 200 miles away. He have my all records. I drive all legal.
I'm sorry, you can't turn off the electronic monitoring at all.
Yes, because
were you turning it off?
When he called me and tell me that, oh, you can turn it off and drive a half an hour and go to pick up the load, because sometimes he want me to push up to pick up the load and turn it off. That I don't supposed to do that, but I'm still listening because that's what he want me to do it. So,
do you have any proof of that?
He have my own logbook proof. It's all in.
No, that would just be you. No, my question is, do you have any proof that he told you to turn off the log?
He called me and tell me.
So you don't have any proof of that? Okay.
No,
Can I ask you a question though? He told you at one point, we're done and I'd like the truck back, right?
Yes.
Why did he tell you that then? If you were doing everything exactly the way he wanted and he's desperate for drivers, why did he fire you? There's something you're doing he's unhappy with. What do you think it was?
Because the last time when I took up the truck, he met me I was taking a load at the Arizona, and he met me in a halfway. He drove me and met me and gave me all the paperwork.
That's not why, Mr. Singh, you know that's not why. The problem you had is that he didn't pay you for the last job. So why don't you just be honest and tell me that? He didn't pay you for the job before, so you didn't want to bring him the truck back until he paid you.
Because my trip is finished, I'm asking the money which I already drive that.
Right.
My trip is finished.
Right. So talk to me about that. So you didn't return the truck because you wanted to get paid for your last job. How much were you supposed to get paid for your last job? $2,478.61, correct? All right.
Yes.
And what reason did he give you for not paying you for the last job?
I don't know. He just
okay, let me ask him. Mr. Gurpreet Singh, what reason do you have for not paying him for the last job?
I asked him to bring the truck back and we will settle our last payment. I informed him that I want the truck back and that's just a security deposit because he had $200,000 worth of equipment.
So you took his paycheck as security for yourself because you figured I need to have leverage over him for him to bring the truck back, because otherwise you thought he might not bring the truck back?
Yes, because...
So he wouldn't get in the truck and bring the truck back to you because you wouldn't pay him his paycheck. You tell him, bring the truck back and I'll pay you. And what does he say? Pay me and I'll bring the truck back.
He said, I'm not moving this truck anywhere until you pay me. I said...
Mr. Jaspinder Singh, did that happen?
Yes, I keep saying that to pay the money, but he told me that no, you have to bring the truck first here, then I will pay you.
How did you get the truck back? What ended up happening? You sent a friend who lives in the same community as him?
Yes, which he refused. He said he will not give me the truck back. The only way he's going to give the truck back if I pay him. And I said, I will be able to.
It's like it was holding the truck hostage.
Yes, and that is exactly, and I have text messages to prove all of this.
And that feels wrong, doesn't it?
It did.
Okay, how does it feel that you were holding his paycheck hostage? How come when you do it, it's security, and when he does it, it's a hostage situation? And we got to call the FBI and stuff, right? You know what's happening here, gentlemen? You're both playing quienes mas macho. Neither one of you wants to give this much because you don't trust the other guy. All right, so when you get right down to it, I do find that what you did the wrong thing first, which was depriving him of his paycheck. Because you were afraid he'd nail you, and you didn't want him to nail you. But he then wouldn't return your truck because he was afraid you'd nail him, and he didn't want you to nail him. But at the end of the day, Mr. Singh, if you just get your paycheck and I don't award anything to Mr. Gurpreet Singh for having to bring the truck back, then you, for free, didn't have to bring the truck back ever. And you had his truck hostage for how long?
Only for 2 or 3 days.
What are you talking about? Wait, how can it be 2 or 3 days?
I was able to get the position of the truck from him.
You called the police.
But
yes, you called the police officer.
So then you moved the truck to a different location.
Yes. Police officer.
I had my
got keys from me, my stuff. I taken out all the stuff. I never.
So Gurpreet, how do you pay your drivers? You figure it out by what mile? By what?
Per mile.
How much do you pay per mile?
50 cents.
That would be $1,100 to drive it from one place to the other. And frankly, although he should pay something for not having to go through that trouble, you should pay something for being the one who breached first.
Yes, I understand.
Yep. I find that the two of you are going to split that $1,100, which is the mileage from Indianapolis to Fresno. Therefore, each of you is going to pay $550. And by that, I mean that I am going to deduct from your paycheck, because you saved yourself an $1,100 trip to return the truck, and you know that. I'm going to deduct from your paycheck the $550, not the entire $1,100, because he doesn't have clean hands either. He has what we call in the law unclean hands by not paying you your paycheck. So normally, if you just kept his truck hostage because you felt like it and you didn't return it, I'd make you pay the entire $1,100. But Jaspinder, since it's clear that put your hand down. It's clear that he violated first by not giving you your paycheck. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to make him pay the other $550. So that means that I'm ordering him to pay you in your paycheck minus the $550, which turns out to be $1,928.61. That's my verdict.
Thank you, Judge.
Mr. Gurpreet Singh, let me ask you, are you okay with the outcome? You realize you did something wrong by not sending his check to him. What's your
I totally agree with it's totally fine. I know I owed him the money. I just wanted to cover my cost of bringing the truck back, and I'm okay with the judgment.
Well, thank you very much. All right, Jaspinder Singh, you okay with what you're going to get now?
I don't really expect that, because I just having a truck for 2 days, then he called the cop on me and took a truck from me. So
she heard you, but that's her decision, sir. It cost you $500 out of that paycheck by not taking the truck back. Sorry about it, but that's her decision. All right, Harvey?
So, Doug, going to court is one way of getting your money, but there is another way of doing it. In many states, there is a state labor commission, and these labor commissions monitor disputes often between employers and employees. And in a situation where an employer doesn't pay, you can go to the labor commission and you can file a complaint, and sometimes they can resolve the matter and even impose penalties on the employer if he doesn't pay over a certain period of time. That is an option instead of going to court.
What is your most prized possession?
About 30 years ago, give or take, we went hiking on an overnight hiking trip in Colorado. I was in the stream and fly fishing when I saw this interesting rock. And I just kind of picked it up and rubbed a little dirt off it and shoved it into my waders and just kept fishing. And then later that evening, we were by the campfire and I washed it off, cleaned it up a bit, and it turned out to be a piece of petrified wood. And it might be 300 or 400 million years old, right? This thing. It's a reminder to me also of us together before we were married, totally in love, like we are now.
Yeah.
And every time I look at it, it reminds me of that hiking trip, you know?
That's going to do it, folks. Tune in tomorrow for Judge Millian and me. We'll see you next time.